And now we're going to do the NFC East and the NFC North. We're going to go over unders for all 8 teams. We're going to pick a division winner, and then we have some fun miscellaneous division props. So let's start it right off with the Dallas Cowboys, our Dallas Cowboys parlay kid. Over under 10.5, minus 130 towards the under. Listen, are they worse than they were last year on paper? Sure, fine. I'll give you that, right? It's never great when Mike McCarthy's still the head coach, right? 3rd season, 19-16. You got Kellen Moore, offensive coordinator. Dan Quinn stuck around, which is nice. What did they do? Early in the offseason, they traded Amari Cooper for a 5th rounder to Cleveland. And now, after seeing all these wide receiver contracts, you're like, holy crap, boy, Cleveland got a steal there. Maybe not anywhere else, but they did get a steal for Amari Cooper, I think. Cedric Wilson, parlay kid, who we liked, now goes to Miami. And we get James Washington, who greets us with a broken foot. Not great. What else? We franchise tagged Dalton Schultz. We re-signed Gallup, 5 years, $62.5 million, who they say is progressing nicely from his injury from last year, except there's no timetable when he comes back. Jaron Curson, $2 million, $10 million. They got him 2 years, $10 million. They add Dante Fowler in free agency, the Atlanta defensive end, for a few $1 million. Who do they lose? They lose Gregory, Slug, Wilson, like I mentioned, Lil Collins, Connor Williams, Zerline, Keanu Neal. In the draft, they get this Tyler Smith with the 24th pick overall, the offensive tackle from Tulsa. I know he gets a lot of penalties. He led college football in penalties, or top 5. Get the edge rusher from Mississippi. 3rd round, we get a wide receiver from South Alabama, Jalen Tolbert. I get it. The line's getting older. The defense got a lot better. We shaved off 10 points a game, mostly because Diggs, number 5 ranked defender, 11 interceptions, and Parsons, 84 pressures, 13 sacks. It's a good team. It's still a good team. I don't care what anyone says. They have a bye in week 9. They open against Tampa. They go against Cincinnati. So 2 division winners right off the bat. Maybe not fair, but this is the Cowboys. This is what happens. Then the Giants, Washington, Rams. Somehow, Parlay Kid, we're tied for the easiest strength of schedule in the league. 3 added games, like I said, Tampa, Cincinnati, and at Rams. The last 5 are very winnable. Houston, Jacksonville, Philly, Tennessee, Washington. You got Thanksgiving against the Giants. You got another prime time against the Giants. I like this team. I don't like them at 11-6. Their over-under's 10.5. I'm going to go under 10-7, Parlay Kid. I'm going to bury the lead here, but I still like them to win the division, and I think 10-7 is good enough. What do you like?
So I think you're right on the money here. I have them winning 10 games as well. Partly because of some of the things you just talked about, some of their losses. I'm not sure if their gains have added up to their losses. I think they had a mediocre draft. They've lost some good players, especially on the offensive line. The Cooper trade, look, I'm not the biggest Cooper fan. I think part of the reason is I think the Cowboys felt the same way. As what you hear about it is maybe they didn't think he bought it on a game-to-game basis. So I get it, but now you'd give anything to have Cooper back on this team after some of the the injury to Washington. And already now the wide receiving core is depleted. They're basically saying, well, look, it's going to be up to Dak to make these receivers better. I mean, we saw Romo do it. We've seen Dak do it, but that's throwing a lot on a quarterback, especially when the offensive line it's getting older. I mean, Tyron Smith, how many games is he playing this year at that left tackle spot? He's going to be missing time.
It's all right. We got another Ty Smith. We just replaced Ty Smiths with each other.
Right. And then this kid, we're putting a lot of stock into this rookie here.
Yeah.
And we know rookies can play on the offensive line, but he was a bit of a penalty machine out of Tulsa. So there's a lot of ifs on this team. But Sal, I personally think that this is I think we have a top 5 defense this year in the NFL. I think this team is going to be carried by their defense. I personally believe, and call me a homer if you want, I personally believe Micah Parsons is the best defensive player in the NFL. Watched him enough last year. The kid's got a nonstop motor. He's all over the field. He's not just one of these guys who can rush the passer. He does everything. Right. And I just think they've shored up the secondary. Is still getting better. I don't care what anybody says. Diggs is fantastic. He's going to be better this year than he was last year. You'll see.
It's going to be tough. I know what you're saying, because like he's got that Dion quality where they don't throw his way. So for someone who they didn't throw his way and he still had 11 interceptions, like I do read articles that say interceptions are lucky. A lot of them are tipped. It's right place, right time. So anyone who led the league in interceptions, you could expect a regression. And it's the top guys really just get 3 or 4 interceptions, right? So I don't know. You want to call it? You want to call fluky? Fine, but he's a good player.
We've been dying for somebody to get interceptions on this team for years. Usually their leader has like 2. Mm-hmm. So what he did for them was excellent last year. Yes, Leighton Vander Esch getting a little long in the tooth, a little beat up. They
re-signed him. Yep.
They got him signed, but I think they just brought in Barr, who's been had a nice career in Minnesota, a little older, but might have some time left. I think this defense, and Quinn is a great defensive coordinator, keeping him around was huge. Right. I think this team, and I think that's how the Cowboys are looking at it. I think they're going to still try to run the ball with Elliott and Pollard. Their passing game, look, Dak, we know he's going to throw, if he plays every game, he's going to throw for 4,500 plus yards, no matter who his receivers are. And once Gallup is back and fully healthy, our receiving core is going to be all right. CeeDee Lamb has to take the next step and be a true number 1. A guy who's going to catch 95 to 100 passes this year. Mm-hmm. There's still some holes though. And I look, 3 out of the first 5 games, like you said, the Buccaneers, the Bengals, and the Rams, 3 out of the first 5. That's not easy. They're going to lose some games just because it's the Cowboys, right? So they're going to lose a couple that you don't expect. Yeah. And a couple that you do expect. 10-7 wins you the division though, Sal. Still wins you the division.
I agree. I mean, obviously, yeah, I'm right there, 10-7. By the way, you guys are going to be lucky enough. If you go to Spotify Live, I'll tell you right now, the Parlay Kid and I and Brother Bry and Harry could laugh. Harry, will you watch these games with us? We're going to be going live probably during the fourth quarter of most Cowboys games. So
can't wait, bud. Can't wait.
What a treat for everybody. So let's go on to the Eagles. Now, this is everybody's darling team. I mean, really, they're 9.5. The over is -130. They went 9-8 last year. And there's so much buzz, and they killed it in free agency and in the draft. And yet, there's still the over-under's 9.5 and -130, and they're not expected to win the division. I mean, you would think that they were the Joe Montana's 49ers by the talk here. So my thing is, I got to believe in. It's nice to believe in the coach or the quarterback or both, right? And I don't believe in either here. I really don't. I don't know about this Nick Sirianni. Second year, right? I don't know about Jalen Hurts. I think they could walk away from him, right? So let's talk about what they did. They traded for A.J. Brown. Huge move. Big. They signed Hassan Reddick from Carolina, $345 million, 3 years. Bradbury, they get from the Giants, cornerback. Zach Pascal. They re-signed Derek Barnett for cheap, Fletcher Cox for cheap on defense. In the draft, they get this Jordan Davis, a defensive tackle from Georgia. Huge guy, 6'6", 340. And then the third round, Nakobe Dean, who people are picking for Defensive Player of the Year. Brian, did you pick him? Somebody picked him for
Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year, yeah.
Yeah, I hope he starts right away.
He's got health issues, but honestly, people say, this is the best player and the best defense. Like, why did he fall to the third rounds? They got a center in the second round is going to help. Slay and Bradbury are going to be good defensively. Javon Hargrove, already a red chipper defensive player. They were 31st in sacks, so they have a ways to go. Goddard, top 5 yards per target. Quez Watkins, 11 yards per target. Those are some guys you might not think of fantasy wise, but they can make some noise. They start at Detroit, then reverse Minnesota, Monday Night Football, then at Washington and Jacksonville. So those first, 4 teams are 26-41. It's just the opposite, Parlay Kid, of what the Cowboys have to go through for the first 4.
Yep.
They have the Cowboys at home on Sunday Night Football and Christmas. They have 3 straight road games towards the end of the year, 14-16. But look, I have them at 9-8. I have them under. I had the Cowboys under. Are they a playoff team? Sure. I got them as a playoff team right now. I'm not excited about Hurts. 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. And I know he runs a lot, but when he does, it results in an ankle injury. So I don't know if he stays on the field as much. And he's not an accurate passer. So I'm going 9-8. Harry, you're the one who has this Eagles hit. No, Brother Brian, you're going over.
Yeah, I'm going over. It's funny. If you blindly asked me this, like if you asked me this a month ago, I would have said no. I would have said they're going under. there's a lot of question marks with Hurts and with the head coach, right? I mean, I do agree with you there, but I'm going over because I drilled down. I looked at their schedule, and I mean, I'm like, my God, it is soft. Like you were saying, at Detroit, Minnesota, at Washington, Jacksonville, at Arizona, home against Dallas, home against Pitt, Houston, Washington. I mean,
yeah, they're extras. Their 3 extras are New Orleans, at Arizona, and Pittsburgh. That's what's
right.
different.
So
from
the thing
Cowboys.
is, like, they're tough. Their toughest opponents, right? Like their non-conference or non-division toughest opponents: Packers, Minnesota, Tennessee, all at home. All at home. So, like, I think when I was looking at this schedule, I was like, I think there's a floor of 8 wins, but they could certainly, if everything goes right, which, again, I'm not sure it's going to go right with Hurts. But
if everything goes right, Minshew starts, I think.
Right. They could win 12 games though. Like when you look at the schedule, just because how weak the schedule it is. There's a ton, like you said, ton of skill on offense. Their defense should be much improved, right? They should get at the quarterback a lot more this season. This is all schedule based, and I don't even have a ton of faith in Hurts or Sirianni, but I still think if they won 9 games last year, they can win 10 this year.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's weird, right? It just seems like they're begging you to go over here. But, and like I said, they made all the right moves. I kind of think they're like, we said the Chargers are the Cowboys West, but in terms of expectation, well, they don't have the gunslinger like the Chargers do, but the Eagles, in terms of what they did in the offseason and what's expected from them, there's a lot of buzz at that over 9.5. Right, I go under. Bry goes over. Harry, your Giants, or these were once your Giants. I don't know. This was like 4 teams ago. They were 4-13, 4-13 last year, and now 7.5. The under is -145. You got Brian Daboll, the Bills offensive coordinator, taking over. You got Don Martindale, the defensive coordinator for the Ravens for many years. He's heading up the defense there. They needed an edge and an offensive tackle in the draft, and they got it. Thibodeau and Evan Neal from Alabama. They got Wan'Dale Robinson, the wide receiver from Kentucky. What are we saying for Thibodeau? Like 3 or 4 weeks or more? Do they know?
Yeah, I mean, it says 3 or 4 weeks, but it seems like, I don't know. He might not be back till the beginning of October.
Yeah. They got some line help. They got the Colts guard, Glowinski. They got him for $18 million for 3 years. Feliciano, the guard for Buffalo. They got him for, a couple $1 million. They lose Bradbury, as I mentioned. They lose Logan Ryan, both cornerbacks. They lose Kyle Rudolph. He goes to Tampa Bay. I'm looking at their schedule. They open at Tennessee, Carolina, and Dallas. 5 of their first 6 are at home. And they get Green Bay and London. That's a fun one. Their added 3 games are at Seattle, Carolina, and Baltimore. Here's the thing. You want to talk about a weak schedule? They only play 4 playoff teams from last year. And, 2 of them are Dallas and Philadelphia. So I like this team, Harry. You're going under. I could see them. And I love picking against the Giants every year. I kind of think they got it all together. They really do. This is a little more than a rebuilding year. It's a decent team who's sick of losing. And I don't think Daniel Jones will be as terrible as he's been. I think you'll get a healthy, for the most part, Barkley. Tony Golladay, Wan'Dale Robinson. I think 2 of those guys pan out. You're looking at a decent-ish defense. Maybe the secondary needs a little help. I got him at 8 and 9. 8 wins for this Giants team, Harry, but you're going under 7.5.
Yeah, I do love the coaching moves that they did in the offseason, but look, they have not had more than 6 wins in a season, more than 6 since 2016. You mentioned Sal, 4 last year. 3 of those were by 7 points or less, and their offense was so anemic at the end of the season. So asking for 8 seems like a tremendous stretch. Still not sure about the O-line. They have decent receivers, wide receivers, but New York went out and paid Kenny Golladay 2 years ago. And last year, 37 receptions for New York. It just seems like whoever the Giants get in free agency, it just never really pans out. 31st in total offense last year, like I mentioned, 23rd in points against. And that's kind of deceiving because their defense wasn't that terrible because they're on the field nonstop. You mentioned Thibodeau. He's going to be fun to watch. Leonard Williams is solid, 18 sacks in his last 2 seasons with New York. And Blake Martinez, they got from Green Bay a couple years ago, missed 15 games last year, so he should really do what he usually does, which is being a tackle machine. But overall, I think the defense is going to be pretty strong. But just overall, I don't know exactly where Barkley's going to fit in, and how many touches he's going to get, if he's going to get the yards that he did when he was a rookie. I just don't think overall Daniel Jones can put together a season where this Giants team gets 8 wins.
Wow, spaghetti. I mean, those are harsh words. Harsh words from a former big fan of the Giants.
Gotta see something out of this team on offense.
How many wins, spaghetti?
They're going to go over. They're going to go over. I've been battling with this, but someone actually asked me to do a podcast recently, breaking the Giants. So I was doing a bunch of research, and I was like, this team will go over. They had it. You said it, Sal. They had to get Thibodeau. They had to get Evan Neal. Those are 2 big holes. They filled those in. Probably Feliciano headlines the interior offensive line moves they made. So I like the offensive line moves. Where I like the most, though, Daniel Jones' rookie year, 24 touchdowns, 12 picks. I would almost sign up for that, if that's, it sounds crazy, because I think they just have enough around him that he could just, as long as he's at a negative, I think they could win the 8 games there. And having an offense run by Dayball and Kafka, they're going to throw the ball a ton, which makes it a lot easier for Saquon. And Saquon's more fired up than anyone. He's going to come back, I think, closer to what he saw his rookie year. And the defense definitely have some holes in the secondary, although I do think Xavier McKinney becomes one of the more premier safeties in this league. But having Azeez Ojulari, who had 8.5 sacks last year, adding Thibodeau with the monsters in the middle, Lenny Williams and Dexter Lawrence. I mean, that's kind of how the Giants won the Super Bowls back in the day, was having a good pressure, the good front seven. And
slow down. They're not winning the Super Bowl.
No, not Super Bowl, but it will help. Wink Martindale's defense blitzes like crazy. Right. So if they do get to the quarterback, that's great. And it makes the secondary, they will get burned some plays because of the defense. But, sometimes when they get to the quarterback, that could create turnovers, which is a thing they're going to have to do this year. So I think overall, David Gettleman being gone, the coaching staff finally being stable now, and a guy like Joe Shane running the ship, I think we're in the right direction for the Giants. So I think 8 wins is definitely feasible.
And we liked Judge at first, and then he became a punchline, and even more so in New York. You can't go on like that. So I like all the coaching changes. I like that Daniel Jones, who's a serviceable quarterback, I think has something to prove. And I'm betting on no injury, or not crippling injuries. And if Barkley's back, what is he expected at? We're going to do player props next week. Is he supposed to have 900 yards? Is that it?
850 and a half.
Is it 850? I keep seeing other numbers. By the way, we didn't Parlay Kid talk about Zeke and Pollard, but at least going into this year, you're not going to be too disappointed in Zeke. You kind of know where he is, right? I kind of like the 1-2 thing they have going with Pollard and Zeke. And okay, so his yards per carry go down every year, so you know what you're getting. And I think they've figured that out, right, Parlay Kid? So as far as running back tandems, that's the way to go. And by the way, I misspoke when I said I have the Eagles making the playoffs. I do not. I have the wild cards as the Bucks, the 49ers, and who am I missing? Harry's Vikings. All right, so let's move on. Just real quick, Commanders. What were they? 7-10 last year? Yeah, I don't like this team at all. I don't. Their over-under is 8.5. I guess we should have done them before the Giants because their over-under is 8.5, but the under is minus 170. Good Lord. 7-10. Ron Rivera, 3rd season. He's 14-20 with this team. Already problems with Jack Del Rio. They're just, I don't know. They suspended. They fined him for something ridiculous. They traded for Carson Wentz. They traded for Carson Wentz, who was probably going to be cut. They add on the line Andrew Norwell, the guard from Jacksonville, and Trey Turner, the guard from Pitt. They lose Scherf, the lineman. They lose Ioannidis, the defensive end, who was a good pressure guy. They lose Landon Collins and Eric Flowers, guys who were just hanging on. In the draft, they get the wide receiver from Penn State, Jahan Dotson, 16th pick. Fedarian Mathis, a defensive tackle from Alabama, a little later on. Sam Howell, late in the 5th round. Maybe we see him. So, I mean, that's a 21-year-old with 37 college starts, which is interesting. So don't sleep on Sam Howell replacing Carson Wentz. They open home against Jacksonville and then at Detroit. Who really, can you get a better draw there? I mean, that's 1-2 in the draft, right? Those are the first 2 teams. Their 3 extra games are at San Francisco, home against Atlanta, home against Cleveland, week 17. So that's a Deshaun game. They play the Giants right before and right after the bye, which is interesting. The quarterback foes are not great, which is I'm looking at, right? So you got Jacksonville, Detroit, Philly, Tennessee, even Tennessee, a winning team. You got Chicago, all these quarterbacks at Houston, leave a little Atlanta, Mariota, leave something to be desired there. I would have projected them as like a 4 or 5 win team, but with the schedule being so soft, I have to bump it to 7. Either way, way under 8.5. I think they'd be lucky to get the 7. I'm going under. Bri, you're going under also.
Yeah, I love the under here. And like we said, all of these NFC East teams for the most part have very easy schedules. Riverboat Ron, not more than 7 wins in a season in his last 4 years coaching. You know, they have a good amount of offensive skill, right, on that side of the ball. A lot of, like, I like some of their receivers. I like Gibson, although he turns the ball over probably too much. But I probably between Wentz and Gibson, they might turn over. They might have a lot of boneheaded plays between the two of them. But I do not trust Wentz at all. I've always kind of felt that way with him. You know, the offensive line, even in this preseason, has a lot of injury concerns, and they're a relatively older unit for the most part. They didn't have much of an offseason. They kind of got worse in the draft. Like the Dotson kid, you know, a good player, probably shouldn't have gone 16th in the draft where they drafted him.
Yeah.
But, you know, everybody loves this defensive line. That's all everybody goes back to, the defensive line. Well, Chase Young's out for at least 4 games, probably more. So I think this team, when I think about it, I'm like, even as much as I think this division sucks, I mean, I think Washington goes 2-4 in the division. And if they go 2-4 in the division, they got to go 7-4 outside of it, which is not happening regardless of how soft the schedule it is. So I'm going under here.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like the questions are defense, right? I mean, the question's always Carson Wentz if he's your quarterback, but it's also the defense. Like going into last year, the dynamite, right? Speculation, right? I think they were a top 2 or 3 defense in 2020. And then they just fell apart. They were just like everybody else defensively. And like you said, Young starts on the PUP. You know, it was Young and Montez Sweat, and then Jonathan Allen's a blue chipper at tackle. They got a couple good guys at cornered, Fuller and William Jackson III. But if this is an average defense, then, you know, 7-10 is right about where they should be. Nothing really jumps out. All right, so if we go to our division picks right here, Harry, go ahead, Brian. You and Harry, I think, like the Eagles, and Parlay Kid and I like the Cowboys, of course.
Yeah, I like the Eagles at the plus 170. I like it, and a lot of that has to do with their schedules when you compare it, right? So Cowboys get Tampa, Cincy, Rams. Eagles get New Orleans, Steelers, Arizona. And I feel like, you know, they're like I said earlier, I think, you know, Philly, they get their tough games at home too. So I think the Cowboys, I do think they'll be good defensively, like Parlay Kid was saying. I think they do take a little bit of a step back offensively. I think they're still pretty solid, but I'm going to go with the Eagles at plus 170.
All right, Harry, what do you have to add to that for Philly?
Yeah, I mean, people wouldn't think about it, but over the past 5 years, the Eagles have won the East as many times as Dallas has. Philly went from 4 wins 2 years ago to 9 wins and making the playoffs. They were number 1 in the league last year in rushing. They got an excellent rushing attack. And meanwhile, like you mentioned a little while ago, in Dallas, Zeke continues to rush for less and less per game. In 2018, he led the NFL at 96 yards per game. Now he's at 58, a measly 58. Right. I think Pollard should be the main guy. That shouldn't be a 1-2 combo. I think Pollard should be the only guy if you want to have a better running attack.
He's not like that. He's not a running back like that.
Well, let's give him a shot. I'm just saying, Hurts is improving. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith together could be one heck of a duo. Mentioned a couple of guys they drafted from Georgia, Davis and Dean, going to help out that defense. I think they win the division. I love the plus 170 here.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I see plus 170, but I see everybody has this Eagles team, Parlay Kid. We got to just shut them up. We just got to beat them twice, and then that'll be that. Because it could be, as Brian points out, after 5 games, we could be 2 games back. I think eventually we make it up, but the Eagles were, were they handed a gift in that first quarter of the season.
They certainly were, Sal. But, you know, let me mention one thing about this division, because we do, in the last several years, have looked at this division as a terrible division. But looking at it now, a lot of it does have to do with the schedule makers too here. But the Giants have the lowest over-under win total, and that's 7.5.
Yeah, you're not going to find a last place team with the 7.5.
That's what I mean.
Right?
This division actually, according to the odds makers, this division is not that bad. 7.5, 8.5, 9.5, 10.5 are the over-under what this division is predicted, with exception of the West, the AFC West. I'm not sure if you could find that in any other division here in football. So granted, a lot of that has to do with a lot of these teams having easy schedules. Sal, until the Cowboys are still the team to beat in this division as far as I'm concerned. I like what they're doing on defense, as I said before. Hurts still has to, Hurts versus Prescott. Who are we taking here? I'm taking Prescott, Sal.
Right.
I'm taking Prescott over Hurts. Prescott, so we know that Dak doesn't always have those huge games when we really want him to have it, but he's still, I think, head and shoulders above Hurts at this time of his career. Harry is, again, he wants to go with the Eagles. Harry has picked every other team in his division.
Hurts, Harry.
You don't love Hurts. I'm not saying I love Hurts. I'm just saying
Harry had the Giants 2 years ago. He had Washington last year. But, you could take what he's saying here with this division with a grain of salt because he won't pick the Cowboys. So he's going to, of course, take the Eagles.
Of course. The Cowboys will be his favorite team just by virtue in about 23 years. I mean, eventually it all comes around, right? When he recycles through all of them. But we just have time
how our receivers do in this season. Now, let's see how they
do. You said it yourself. I don't think the Eagles are even sold on Hurts.
No.
So why I don't think the Eagles are sold on Hurts. I'm riding with Dak.
Eagles weren't supposed to make the playoffs last year. They still did.
It's a Tua situation, right? Like, all right, let's load them up with everything we can. And then, I mean, it's a smart thing. It's like, if you're going to commit a lot of money to a guy after 4 or 5 years, 3 years. Yeah.
It is the same thing every year. Okay, Dallas wins the division. Everyone loves Dallas. What's Dallas going to do? And then it's the same thing every year. They do make the playoffs.
We're talking about the division right now, though. We're breaking down over wins. We're talking about division. We're talking about who wins the division. I'm not talking about who's going to the Super Bowl, which I could guarantee you the Eagles are not. But the odds are, I mean, it is weird that it's plus 170, Bri, for the Eagles. Everyone's singing song about the Eagles all year long. Dallas plus 135, Washington 5-1, Giants 7-1. That to me is the bigger thing there. I think the Giants are going to be potentially considerably better than Washington. But so let's get with our miscellaneous props. Parlay Kid, maybe you could jump in there because you have an exact order finish for this division.
And you obviously like this one, Sal. You just called it. So I got an exact order. All 4 teams: Dallas 1, Philly 2, Giants 3, Washington 4 at plus 800, 8-1 odds here. You just highlighted all the reasons why I would take this. I think the Giants have improved. I really do think Dallas and Philly are the class of the division right now. Giants have improved. Washington, to me, I think that they're that over under at 8.5, like you and Brother Bryce said, that's going under that. I think they're the 4th place team. I like this at 8-1 here for this exact finish.
I'm trying to think. Now I'm finding Cowboys, Eagles plus 290, Eagles, Cowboys plus 350. That's not bad either, Parlay Kid. That's just for the 2.
Not bad at all.
Not as much as I like the Giants, I don't know that they'll be there in the top 2 at the end of the year. All right, Brother Bry, that's actually exactly what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, that's essentially what I like. Again, we talked about this yesterday, but FanDuel offers that you could take the top 2 in any order. So I was looking at the Philly, Dallas, any order, top 2 plus 110. I just love that. I don't know.
I think it's the same as betting both plus 290 and plus 350, right? Did we figure out which is better? I don't know. It's probably the same.
Yeah. Unless you got, unless you think the Giants are going to make a huge leapfrog.
Yeah.
Maybe Philly, but I don't see it again when I look at these schedules. I don't know. I thought plus 110 was kind of a steal with this number.
Right. All right. And Harry, you're going after all this. Washington under 6.5. Pretty good. Pretty good odds though for that number.
Yeah, plus 10. I figured you like this one, Sal, too.
Plus 210.
I don't like Wentz, and more than not liking him, you can't trust him. I mean, and this team last year, 21st offensively, and from night and day the year before on defense. Secondary was great 2 years ago, so soft last year, 29th versus the pass. You mentioned Chase Young going to miss at least 4 games, Brian. I think you said that. And also with Montez Sweat 2 years ago, 16.5 sacks for those guys. They were fantastic rushing the passer. Last year, just a total of 6.5 combined with those 2 guys. They did have 7 wins last year, but 5 of those 6 wins 5 of those wins were by 6 points or less. I'm going to go under 6.5, get to 6 plus 210 with Washington. It's worth a shot.
All right. Yeah, I can't say I hate that. In fact, I like everything you guys have said so far. And now wait for mine here. Dallas Cowboys, first loss at the Rams, week 5, 7-1. As much as I said, the first part of their schedule is brutal, Parlay Kid, and the Eagles could actually gain a couple gains on them in the first quarter. A win against Tampa, payback for last year's opening night, right? Which we should have won in Tampa. Now we're home. We beat Tom Brady, that weakened offensive line. Speaking of weakened offensive lines, not completely sold on the Bengals that they've righted the wrongs of their offensive line in that unit. They put Burrow on his ass 7 times. They win game 2. And at the Giants, sorry, Harry, but you're just not ready for us just yet. Not a team that beat up on Tampa and Cincinnati. That'll be a win. Washington at home will be a win. And then it comes to LA. I could bet against it at that point, right? 4-0 Cowboys visiting SoFi in week 5, 7-1 odds. God bless Cowboys' first loss week 5. I'm sticking to it, Parlay Kid. I like it.
I like it. I'm guessing you'll be in attendance at that Cowboys.
Well, I'll have to if I have 7-1. I mean, let's see, 7-1. If I have like $8,000 on that, yeah. If I have like $56,000, I stand to win on it. Yeah, sure, of course I'll be. Why the hell not?
Sal, I will say Brian's bet at what's it, plus 110, Brian?
Yeah.
That is a bet where week 17, last week, you could probably middle or figure out how to hedge on that if that comes down to it. Because remember, all teams play their division in the last week of the season. Right. That could be gold, Brian.
Yeah, I think that's solid.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm trying to think of a better guaranteed 1-2 that we've gone over so far.
I think we got it coming up here, Sal. I think we got it coming up, though.
I guess so.
It's probably
I guess you're right. All right,
yeah.
Let's do it. You're right. We'll take a break and we'll hit the NFC North. All right, NFC North. The landscape looks much like it has over the years with the Packers at 10.5, the Vikings 9.5, the Lions favored to win more games at 6.5 than the Bears, who are 5.5. The Packers over 10.5 is minus 160. I mean, why the hell not? They're the Packers. This really depends on if you're scared about Aaron Rodgers, who they extended. They did right by him. They gave him more money. They took Devontae Adams away from him, which I'm pretty sure he knew was happening, despite all the cute, Instagram posts with them together and everything. And so Devontae Adams traded for a first and a second. You got Nathaniel Hackett goes to Denver. Rodgers extended $150 million. Not much in terms of free agency. They never really do. They re-signed Rasul Douglas, the star cornerback. Robert Tonyan. They gave him, he missed most of last year, but he was a very effective tight end, remember, 2 years ago. And Alan Lazard, they re-signed. They lose Darius Smith. He was part of that outstanding linebacking core. He goes to Minnesota, which might hurt more than anything. They lose Valdez Scantling, the wide receiver, to Kansas City. I'm looking at this defense, though. Solid. Let's forget about Aaron Rodgers and who he's going to make a star in the next year or so. But Alexander Stokes Douglas, maybe the best corner trio. You got Amos and Savage, solid safeties. That linebacking core, even without Zadarius Smith, you have Preston Smith, Devondre Campbell, who is the second highest ranked PFF guy. They get Quay Walker, right? That's their big draft pick. And Rashawn Gary, who's a blue chip defender. Really, like their defense, forgetting about the offense for a second, is going to keep them in the game. In most games here, Quay Walker, linebacker from Georgia. Everybody got a linebacker from Georgia, 22nd overall. They get the defensive tackle from Georgia, Devontae Wyatt, at 28. They get Christian Watson. I know they're not high on him as much, 34th pick overall. I think he only had, it was very weird. This guy from North Dakota State had 2 receptions a game. Very strange to be a second-round pick and with all the wide receivers out there. But this Romeo Doubs, who's they're in love with and has had great preseason so far, stud in camp, wide receiver for Nevada. He could be the next one made a star by Aaron Rodgers. They open at Minnesota. You get a good idea of what that division is going to look like opening night. Chicago, then Sunday Night Football, week 2. Their extra games, tough, at Tampa, Rams, and Tennessee. They go to Tampa, New England, and then travel to London. There could be some fatigue there, But then they play the Giants in London, and then the Jets right afterwards. They have the least advantageous rest schedule, but really I'm betting on the Packers. I'm betting on Aaron Rodgers to put together a 12-win season here. Whoever it is, Lazard, Randall Cobb. I know he's 32 years old. Davis, the receiver I just mentioned. Tanyan coming back from a busted up ACL, but he was very productive. And you got Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon in the backfield. I think Rodgers does his thing. They win 12 games. They're the division winners. That's who I like. Brian, you like this over too? Yeah,
I like the over. I think you and I every year take the over. It's the same thing. We usually say this line's a little low, right?
Yeah.
But you got to have faith in Rodgers and LaFleur. I mean, LaFleur's 39-10 as a head coach. And the thing was, right, they started the season getting blown out last year, right? After that, they essentially went, when you look at it, they essentially went 13-1 the rest of the way with Rodgers, because Rodgers missed the one game. And then he also played like half of the last game of the season. So they essentially went 13-1 with him. They're going to miss Adams, and I love Adams on the Raiders, but it might not matter for a guy like Rodgers. I really like that Nevada rookie that they brought in. I know he's having a good camp supposedly for them, but it's funny. I don't know why over the last couple of years I bet Nevada a bunch. So I always seem to watch him. He always put up big games
because it's a late game. You're a degenerate. And you've lost a lot of money during the day. Yeah,
that's true. But
the answer.
That is the answer. But you were saying defensively they should be better. Rashawn Gary, I think, had 9.5 sacks last year. Finally came into his own. Should improve even more. They do have Tampa, New England, Buffalo, and the Rams on their schedule. But when I look at it overall, it doesn't seem too daunting. I think, maybe they might finally take a step back this year, but I think they still get to 11 wins.
I'll tell you what, Brother Brian, you mentioned your Raiders and they get Devontae Adams. I think the Raiders lost the trade with the Packers because, not that this was really part of the trade, you got Devontae Adams, you lose Rich Bisaccia, the special teams coach. And the Packers were a special teams nightmare, especially against that 49ers game. But even before that, if you look at their numbers, just disgraceful. Like they really could have won that game scoring one touchdown. What was that? Like a Saturday night game against the 49ers?
So bad.
Really bad. They got this guy in there, did a decent job for the Raiders, kind of got a real coach in there doing things at special teams. So that could win them a game right there, just having Bisaccia at the helm there. All right, Vikings, listen, I'd love to pick against Harry here, but for some reason, I like the Vikings and I like the Giants this year. They were 8-9 last year. 9.5 is their under -125. I have them as a 10-win playoff team. They have Kevin O'Connell jumps in there. He was the OC for the Rams, and everybody talks about what he did. He worked wonders with Cooper Kupp, and that's what's going to happen with Jefferson. Same kind of deal. Not that he needs any, sparking. He was a great receiver as it is, Justin Jefferson. They added, like I said, Zadarius Smith, $42 million player. They added Harrison Phillips, a defensive tackle from Buffalo at 116 tackles, had almost 400 tackles in 3 years. They added Jordan Hicks, the linebacker from Arizona. They extend Cousins, give him $35 million for another year. They re-signed Patrick Peterson, who's a little iffy back there in the secondary. They lose Tyler Conklin, the tight end. They lose Xavier Woods. They lose Anthony Barr, Sheldon Richardson. Lewis signed. They get signed. This is a pretty good draft pick. They added 3 guys. Their first 3 picks are all expected to start. Sign the safety from Georgia, Booth, the cornerback from Clemson, and Ingram, the guard from LSU. So if you have Smith and Sign, if they work out, you have 2 really good safeties there. Very similar to the Packers defensively. Really solid rush there with Smith, Hunter, Tomlinson, and Phillips, even though Hunter and Smith are injury prone. They open versus Green Bay, then they're at Philly Monday Night Football, then Detroit and New Orleans. Their extra 3 are New Orleans, Arizona, and at Indy. Week 4 in London. Damn it, Harry. I think this really kind of has to be Kirk Cousins' year. They loaded him up defensively, and they got the O'Connell thing. It really is a quarterback-friendly head coach. I have the Vikings at 10-7. I know you have them over also.
Yeah, I mean, look, you look at the schedule for a second. This is 7 wins. 7 wins they could have. You get Chicago twice, Detroit twice, Washington, the Jets, and the Giants. So even if you get 6 there, you still only have to get 4 the rest of the way. You mentioned 8 wins last year, Sal. 8 of those 9 losses last season were by 8 points or less. They were right on the cusp of winning. They could have easily split.
That's kind of their thing, though. That's kind of
it is. It is. You're right. Yeah. You're right. They got to overcome that, no doubt about it. But Zimmer's out. You mentioned Kevin O'Connell is in, and already they're saying Cousins and him have already fell in love with each other. He's an offensive guy. This offense is loaded. Again with Cook, Thielen, Justin Jefferson. I think Irv Smith is going to have a big season this year out of the tight end position. Cousins, 30 plus touchdowns. 3 of his 4 years in Minnesota. And I'm just saying, Rodgers, 30 plus touchdowns, two in his last 5 years. So overall here, I just think this Vikings team is way talented on offense and will lead the NFC in scoring. And over 9.5 is a gimme. I think they get to 11.
Yeah, I think they're right in there too. Definitely a playoff team. They did a nice job, at least on paper. I don't know. But then again,
you got something to say? What, you got something to say, Parlay Kid? What's that?
Yeah, go ahead, Parlay Kid. What's the matter?
No, I'm just so. Let's say it right now. Where is your rooting interest this year? Is it the Vikings? Is that the team you've decided? That's where your rooting interest is. No, seriously.
Yeah, definitely. NFC East bores me kind of.
So you're
definitely the Vikings. Listen, I jumped the gun. I should have waited another year, and I'll get to that later for the division. But yeah, I jumped the gun.
So
but
if when they play the Giants, who are you rooting for?
Probably depends on the situation, but probably Minnesota.
What's the situation? What could the situation be?
All right, that's fine. There we go. And he said Minnesota, so it's whatever.
Did you jump the gun with Brock Purdy too? Of the 49ers going to the Super Bowl? Mr. Irrelevant.
He's in the NFL.
Right. I know he made it. He barely made it. All right, Lions. These, I didn't watch Hard Knocks. Was Hard Knocks good last night? I got to catch it. I'm behind.
Yeah, it was still pretty good. Yeah, it was still pretty good.
All right,
those coaches are good to. They're good to listen to.
So this is what's interesting with the Hard Knocks. Shit, did I write this down? I thought I wrote this down. The Hard Knocks teams. Oh, here we go. Only 4 teams over the past 13 years have gone under their season win total. So you would think it's the other way. Yeah. Wouldn't you have thought it was the other way? Like, oh shit. They always put the Hard Knocks team. Yeah.
I was prepared for you to say have always been shitty.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Only 2 in 13 years finished with a worse record than they had the preceding year.
Really?
Isn't that something? I know. I would never have thought that. I would never have thought that.
I would not have thought that.
And that said, everybody's going over 6.5 because they love Dan Campbell. The over's minus 125. They finished 3-3 last year, which I happen to know because I was sweating it out. What was my dumb bet? The Lions and the Texans both to be under 4.5. I know I was like flipping out because these teams like both made a charge at the end. They add DJ Chark. They have him on St. Brown. Everybody loves great work ethic. Week 13 on, he was one of the top receivers in the league. Jamison Williams is now on PUP, right? He's out.
Yep.
They'll eventually get him back. They re-signed Charles Harris, the outside linebacker, and Tracy Walker, the safety. They draft Aiden Hutchinson, who's like the prime focus of this Hard Knocks thing, number 2 overall. Like I said, Jamison Williams, the receiver, for if he had not been hurt, probably would have been a top 5 pick, actually. Josh Pascal, defensive lineman, 46th overall from Kentucky. They get a bye week 6. They open with Philly and Washington. Not bad. No primetime games. They, of course, have that Thanksgiving game. That's at Buffalo or against Buffalo. Of course, it's home. Their added games are Seattle, Jacksonville, and at Carolina. You can't ask for a lot better than that, really, for a schedule. Starting week 10, 7 of 8 against non-playoff teams from 2021. And then they end at Green Bay. They might get a free win right there with Green Bay sitting starters, or at least for the second half. We've seen that before with them. I like them over. I'm not going to go too crazy with them, but I think they're 7-10. I think they're a 7-10 team. Parlay Kid, convince me on the under.
No, it's a big jump for a team that was 3-13-1 last year. I know they were 3-3 down the stretch. And you conveniently really didn't even mention their quarterback, which I don't blame you, because when it comes to their under, he's going to be one of the primary reasons why they go under here, Sal.
Well, the quarterback on Thanksgiving is going to be David Blau. I don't know about the rest of the year.
That's the thing, right? It seems like it.
Fun. Yeah.
And I know Goff has won in the past, but with this Lions team last year, only 25% of his passes traveled 10 yards or more. Just a lot of dump offs, a lot of check downs, not really winning football in my book. And you mentioned, look, we talk about, Green Bay and Minnesota being good. That could be 4 losses right there for the Lions. I know those teams have those games circled as wins on their schedule. They also have to play Dallas, Buffalo, New England, Philly. That could be 8 losses. And then even traveling to play the Giants and Carolina. I know you mentioned them as being weak, but those are not gimmies. I don't think this team can get to 7 wins just yet, Sal. I think they're heading in the right direction. This Hard Knocks shed some light on their coaches who obviously they all have a ton of energy. I'm not sure how great of coaches they are, though, really, to be quite honest with you. Yet, they could prove me wrong here, but I could see this team making some strides. I think having a 4-game increase in wins is a little too much to ask. And we know they lost some heartbreakers last year, and that could change this year where they win some of those type of games. I see this team really, 6 wins is their max.
Right. Well, I think we have the same kind of feeling about that. I see 6-10 maybe going at Green Bay in a meaningless game. So maybe it really could come down to something as simple as that. And really, you look at these schedules for these bad teams, they all play other bad teams. And it's like, oh, this is winnable. They can win it. Like, yeah, but then they just have to win it. Like, that's the difference. Can they win those games? And I don't know. Some teams we say yes, and some we say like Seattle. I'm like, no, they're not going to. They have a terrible. They play terrible teams, and they are a terrible team. So that balances off. The worst team though in the NFL this year is the Chicago Bears.
Wow.
They're going to finish
the worst team.
The worst team. Well, they're going to finish 3-14. And their over-under is 5.5, and the over set at -145. So you can get a nice little adjusted number there. If you like my way of thinking. Matt Eberfloss is in there. 4-year defensive coordinator for Indy. He moved on. You have a new GM. And I don't think, they traded for N'Keal Harry, who immediately busted up his ankle. He's going to have surgery, gone 8 weeks. They traded Khalil Mack. Maybe not a bad deal. They saved $34 million over 2 years there. They added Ogunjobi, the defensive tackle for Cincinnati, a good player. They add Riley Reif, a tackle for Cincy, an offensive tackle. They lose Allen Robinson. They lose Nick Foles, Taj Gibson, Jimmy Graham, Danny Trevathan, all these guys, Tariq Cohen, all the mainstays. In the draft, they get 2nd round, Kyler Gordon, the cornerback for Washington. 3rd round, they get Velus Jones, the wide receiver for Tennessee, who I think is 25 years old already. I think he actually is. Their offensive line this year is ranked 31st. Their wide receivers are ranked 32nd. I mean, talk about Justin Fields. I know Harry doesn't like him. They are not doing this guy any favors.
No.
Mooney.
True.
Mooney, Harry. Well, Harry's out now, but the depth chart was Mooney, Harry, Pringle, and Velus Jones, right? And then you got Montgomery, who's averaged 4 yards a carry or less 2 of the last 3 years. And it might not be his fault. I mean, I told you, the offensive line is bad. There's the Roquan Smith drama. I guess they got him back, right? Not a happy player. They open against San Francisco and then at Green Bay Sunday night, Houston, and then at the New York Giants. Obviously, a bad team is going to have a bad schedule. Their extra games, San Francisco, Houston, and at Atlanta. 3 primetime games. I don't know why, other than the fact that they're Chicago. I think this is a very, very bad team. Whereas the Mitch Trubisky Chicago Bears were a middling team who would struggle to get 5 or 6 wins. I think they get hit over the head hard this year. 3-14 is my guess for the Chicago Bears. Harry, you like them under, maybe not as extreme as I do.
I'm pretty close to you, Sal. I definitely like the Bears under. Finished the season 3-12 in the last 12, 3-9 in the last 12 last year. Justin Fields, to me, doesn't look like he can just read NFL secondaries. He just can't to me. Can't go downfield. 12 games last year he played. He had 2 games, 225 yards or more. 1 game last year he had 2 touchdowns. That's it for them. And you mentioned the wide receiver group, Sal, very weak with Mooney, Pringle, Sharp, St. Brown. think it's awful. And they also mentioned the situation with Roquan Smith. This front office is not only the worst in football, maybe the worst of all sports. The Chicago Bears front office and what they decide to do with their players and how they sign them and what they do. They can never get a quarterback.
Too. It's Ryan Poles from the Chiefs,
new quarterback, but they don't want to pay Roquan Smith. This guy, 4 years he's been in the league. 525 tackles. He's all over. He doesn't miss games. You don't want to pay him. Bad franchise. Fans always get screwed, and this season won't be any different. Sal, I'm probably right there with you. I'll give him 4, but I'm going to go under 5.5, definitely.
Well, you got to be in these big cities. You really can't say you're having a rebuilding year, except for the Jets and Giants. I think the fans are like, you can't lie to them. They're too smart to figure. They're going to figure it out anyway. But I think this is a rebuilding year for the Bears. And it's going to be tough sledding. And I think the rest of the division got better. And it's not going to be good. I mean, they could be, I don't know. They really could be 0-6 or 1-5 in the division. I'm not taking them to win the division. Let's get to our picks right now. Parlay Kid, you and I have the Packers. Is that how it goes?
That's correct.
Yeah. I have the Packers.
Oh, Brian, you have the Packers too. Yeah. Slightly,
So
I think, what do I have them? 12 wins, and I think the Vikings at 10 wins, and Packers are just the cream of the crop. I think they lay it on them in Minnesota the first week, but that doesn't shatter the Vikings season like it normally would have. Aaron Rodgers still a star, may even grab an MVP award again. Take it for what it's worth. That offense, that linebacking core, the defenses are similar. 1 and 2 right there. It's going to be Packers and Vikings. I like the Packers to be at least a game better. Parlay Kid, you want to add to that?
Yeah, look, it's as long as Aaron Rodgers is quarterbacking the Packers, I will not go against them. I think he has the ability to take some of these no-name receivers and make them into really productive ones, and I think he'll do that once again this year. LaFleur has shown that he's a winning coach. He's got a terrific winning percentage. Until Rodgers isn't there, I'll be rolling with the Packers in this division, Sal.
Mm-hmm. Brian, you like them as well.
Yeah, I like them. It's funny. I'm not even sure I like them in week 1. I think it's funny. I think Minnesota could steal a game early because it might take, Green Bay's offense a little bit of time to get up to speed. But I still like them. You have to just based on the history.
Harry, you're going against us, the Vikings. Don't kill you on this. It's plus 240. The Packers are minus 155. Detroit 950, and the Bears are 12-1. Getting plus 240 for the Vikings, and what amounts to be their best year on paper.
Yeah, sure. And like I said, I was a year ahead, I think, for this Viking team. For the Vikings to win the North for the first time since 2017. They needed a few breaks in the offseason, and they got them. I mean, number one was obviously Rodgers losing Davante Adams. I don't love this Green Bay wide receiver core right now. It hasn't been impressive. Now they haven't played a ton, but let's see what happens with him not having Davante Adams. Number two, Sal, you mentioned it earlier, the signing of an ex-Packer, an very good Packer in linebacker Zadarius Smith, who missed most of the season last year. He played one game last year, but 2 years before for Green Bay had 26 sacks in the previous 2 years. And number three, a break that finally Danielle Hunter is healthy and back. He's had some injury problems the last 2 to 3 years. I think it's time for a change in the North, and that's where the Vikings coming out on top over the Packers for the division.
All right, but you got to back off if you get it wrong this year, because you've definitely been on them the last 2 years, and they haven't produced a winning record in those 2 years. Definitely at least 2 years.
I understand. Yeah, but you said it. You said at the beginning, Sal. That's kind of their thing. They score early. They give up. Then they give up the lead, and at the end of the game, they lose by 3. It happens a ton, way more than they win those games. They lose those. They got to change. It's got to turn around. Maybe it's with Kevin O'Connell here and Cousins together, and I got him for winning the division.
And none of us even mentioned Dalvin Cook, right? So if that guy stays healthy, he's obviously he's about 1,200 yards, right? Not had a down season. How many games did he miss last year? I can't even remember. Definitely missed games last year, right? He played. He played 13. All right, so he missed 4 games. Still 1,150 yards. So you need a healthy Dalvin Cook.
But he's had the injury bug
maybe
in his career.
Yeah. All right. So our miscellaneous division prop here. I'm gonna say it. I have said it. The Bears' worst record plus 750. I know there's like 4 or 5 teams ahead of them, but again, rebuilding year. I don't care. The better division they're playing. I don't see many W's on them. Honestly, I see them losing their first 4. I'd see them. That's going to be the difference right there. They lose that game against Houston and at the Giants, and then all of a sudden they're 0-4. And then, their last 5, they'll have given up by then anyway. Green Bay, Philly, Buffalo, at Detroit, and Minnesota. There's not a win in there either. So very tough start, very tough ending. Maybe they scratch out a few wins in the middle, but 3 wins out of this Chicago team is what I'm guessing, plus 750. Harry, you like Chicago. I mean, this is a rough bet. I mean, this is a terrible team, and you're banking on them to win in a specific week.
Yeah, I think that they are going to win in. What did I?
Week 6. You have week 6, but what? Why? Well, if they're getting shut out for the first 5 weeks, you're going to feel excited about this. Like what? How would they have to look?
Said, in week 3, I said that they were going to lose to the Texans, where that's a game they could have won. They could win, but I don't think they're going to because of they play the Packers the week before. I think in week 6, where they play Washington, is a game where they could get this done just because of the Washington team. It's probably going to be again, missing players. They play the Vikings the week before. So I think this is a situation where they play the Patriots the week after. In that schedule, they play at the Giants week 4, which could be a win too, but I don't think it's going to be. So I think it's sandwiched in between 3 road games is that home game against the Commanders. It's a Thursday night game. Maybe they get it done here. I think that again, like you mentioned, they don't have a lot of wins there, Sal.
I love this.
They don't have a lot of wins there. But where's their first win?
I don't know, but I don't know. It's just easier to bet a bad team to keep losing than to pinpoint there's their win. They're going to finally get it together on October 13th.
San Fran, the Packers, then now they could win week 3 against the Texans at home, but I have that banked as a loss. At the Giants, at Minnesota, and after the Commanders, they're at Dallas and at New England.
I get it, but you're asking them to snap out of it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I do think if you're going to do that with this team, right? If you think they're going to lose that week 3 game to Houston, then if you're going to take the Washington game, then you might as well also take week 10 against the Lions at 50-1, week 11 against the Falcons, right? Then you take a few of them. Then it's you have a couple opportunities
or
to win
just
on
go
that.
worst record plus 750. Brother Bry, Lions though to finish 3rd. I think we're all singing the same song here.
Yeah, right. Because you guys love the Vikings and the Packers to finish 1-2, and that is minus 130. We talked any order. But yeah, I know. I like. There's parts of this Lions team I like. I think they put a lot of good pieces together. I don't know if it's necessarily gonna. I mean, I don't love golf, but they have good pieces. I think in the future this is a potential team that could be good. I mean, might be with a different quarterback, might be with a different coach, but I do think there's some progression this year. But yeah, Chicago. I feel bad for Fields because they really have. I mean, their line historically has been bad over the last few years. They have really no receivers around him. Defensively, they could be worse. So yeah, I look at that schedule like Harry was just talking. I look at that schedule and I don't know. Through week 9, there's not a lot of wins on there, and actually the back half of their schedule is tough too. Yeah. So there's only. I don't know. I see similar. I think maybe the Bears. I don't know. Bears could 4 wins, but Lions 6. So I like them plus 170.
Yeah, we're all kind of doing the same thing. Parlay Kid, you have you mentioned this might be the easiest division. Oh, you are?
Yeah, I'm going to switch that. Yeah, Brian had just briefly mentioned. I should have put it out there, but it's too good to pass up. I mean, this is where if I hadn't just paid 4 tuitions for college, this would be one of my tuition picks. I can't do it because one, I've taken a beating by calling it that in the past. Two, I have no money to call it a tuition pick. I can't. Right. Who else in the country is paying 4 college tuitions right now? Probably nobody but the Parlay Kid.
Maybe Harry. Who knows? He has full of mystery. Yeah.
You never know. And if the Bears struggle this year, which they're most likely going to do, it's not going to be Justin Fields' fault. He's going to be a good quarterback. So I'm just taking that any order. top 2, Packers, Vikings at minus 130. That almost seems too easy here in this division at minus 130. So for any finish there, Packers first, Vikings second, or vice versa, it's minus 130. It seems too good to be true, barring injury to the quarterbacks, right? Which is always a big if. That's the gamble here. That's how that's going to play out. So I'm riding with that. That's too good of a pick to not jump on.
All right. And I think we all kind of feel about the same way. So I'm looking at these numbers here. You can pick the 1 through 4, right? If you like the Bears to be abysmal, and you don't think Detroit's good enough to catch the top 2, Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, Chicago is plus 410. Minnesota, Green Bay, Detroit, Chicago is plus 850. It's pretty good, right? Jump on both of those. It's kind of similar to what I know the way you do it, Parlay Kid. You don't have to worry about the other 2, how they finish if the Bears jump up. But 410 and plus 850. All right. So there you go. We did it again. Another 2 divisions. What do we want to do? Tomorrow, we will do the NFC South and West. Maybe we will talk to our friend Brad, who, boy, he had another run in the subway. I sent you guys a video. It's spectacular. He also hated the Manti Te'o documentary, and he might jump on with us. What do we want to? Oh, I did want to mention Kevin Durant, even though I don't want to. I said it when it happened. It's a complete waste of time. No one cares. What if he stays? Brian, what were the odds before? I don't even like talking about this because we're football right now. But the Nets.
Oh, what? Then he stay with the Nets?
Well, they're 7-1 now to win the title. Did they go to 18-1 or worse when there was talk about him leaving?
Yeah, I think that's about right. Right?
Is it 18-1?
All right. 18 or 20? 18 or 20?
Who cares? I just figured I'd
Although I did see news just this last few minutes that Chet Holmgren probably has torn ligaments in his foot.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, not that Oklahoma City's going to win any games, but
right.
It sucks for them.
Yeah. All right. So that's that. That's it. That's all we're going to talk about basketball between now and like Father's Day. So I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. We will be back tomorrow night. We're going to do this again. We're going to finish up, like I said, the NFC South, the NFC West, and then we're going to jump in next week. Will be all player props, and that's a load of fun. Babyface, you okay with everything?
I think we covered it all. I still feel terrible about this Mets-Yankees tiebreaker.
It sucks.
I mean, even though the Mets choked. Let's be honest, the Mets had it. They choked. Really, it's a win for us, but
they couldn't hit.
It's a whole disappointing thing.
Walker walking and runs.
I have a tiebreaker for you guys. I have a tiebreaker trivia question. If you guys want to go, whoever answers the question first.
Not really.
I want to go.
What week will the Bears win their first game?
Last 4 years, who has more playoff wins on the road? The Dallas Cowboys, Aaron Rodgers, or Kirk Cousins?
Is that fair?
All right,
is that
you.
fair?
All
like
right.
Aaron Rodgers gets the 1 seed every year, so he should be. How many road playoff wins is he going to win? All right, Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins is the winner.
Give us. You like that, Harry? Give us one of those.
Yeah, do it, Harry.
Oh, not yet. Wait till the season. Green Bay week 1. I can't wait. How about that? Bart Scott can't wait.
He barely tested negative, so let's let him be. All right, so that's it for another episode of Against All Odds. Yes, we will be back Friday, and there you go. For spaghetti, for meatballs, for Babyface Joel Solomon, the Degenerate Trifecta. I'm Sal, saying so long and happy handicapping.